Barrett Brooks, Super Bowl champion, Comcast Sportsnet, Breakfast on Broad, joins us here to break this trade down. Barrett, I know you have been a Bradford guy. I mean, you've liked Sam Bradford, so he is now no longer here. What say you?
Well, I mean, this is a point in the right direction. If you want to take if you want to take just the trade itself, I mean, Howie's amazing. Period, point blank. No two ways about it. He's a magician. Whatever he's doing, keep drinking what you're drinking because it's definitely working. He's pulled off 4 trades that are unbelievable. 4 trades that just blow my mind at this point. You know, I was just now getting over the fact that he got to the 2nd pick in the draft, but now he executes the 1st rounder this year in this next year's draft. This is unbelievable, man. So at this point, there's no way that Howie cannot be GM of the year.
So, I mean, on the surface, do the expectations for this season change for you at all, going from Bradford to Wentz?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think in Bradford's hands, I think they'll win a couple more games, but a couple more games won't get them into the playoffs with the number of wins I thought they were going to win. I thought they could get to 8-8, maybe 9, 9 wins. But, now that you have the kid coming in, those expectations have to be tempered a little bit. We have to still wait and see what's going on with Lane Johnson. I mean, there's a lot of factors right now that's going to stop this team really from being the team we want them to be. They're not a playoff team. They're probably about a good year and a half, 2 years off of that. But what they are right now is pointing in the right direction. Now you have a kid who can go out there. I've always said that if you have a top 10 pick, they start from day one. A top 10 pick in any organization starts from day one. The fact that Jared Goff is still a 3rd-team quarterback, that's really disturbing for the Rams to even, have that situation like that. It was different with Bradford, but because he was at least somebody that could win you games. The guys they have now can't really win them games, and they're not really in charge of the franchise for the future. But Carson Wentz is the future, so it's different in that way. But at this point, we're going to push forward with Wentz, and I do see him being a guy that's going to at least learn from his bumps and bruises, and the team is not going to be as good, but they're going to showcase him, and the difference between Chip Kelly and Doug Peterson, they're going to game plan around his strength instead of just worrying about the system, and the system will help him out.
So you're on board with going right to Wentz, even though he's played literally one half of NFL football.
Yes, I mean you have to be. You have to be. If it wasn't for Bradford, you'd have to, since he's not in the equation anymore, you have to go forward with the kid. He's got to play. There's no way that you would use Chase Daniels as a stopgap. He's definitely not that guy. I don't even think he's better than Sanchez. I would be more comfortable with starting Sanchez as opposed to starting Chase Daniels. Just being realistic. I had to temper my expectations for the Eagles if they didn't, think that they were going to go ahead with Chase Daniels. I mean, come on now. Chase Daniels is just what he is, a backup quarterback, a guy that can finish the game out. He's not a guy that can go out there and you can start him and he'd be, any more than what you saw in this preseason. He had the opportunity to go out and show that he could play, and I don't think he did.
BB, you're an offensive lineman. You might have heard us talk about Jeff Saturday as you were coming on with us. His comments today that the Eagles are mailing it in. Do you agree with that?
I not necessarily mailing them in because they feel as though they have the right talent that they can go forward. But you would have to look at it and since we see this franchise every day, we don't necessarily say they're mailing in because we think we have enough talent, and the expectations for Eagle fans are a lot different from other franchises. But if you look at it, you would have to say that. You would have to say that this organization is not trying to win right now, because they don't have the proper weapons to support a guy like Carson Wentz right now. They don't have the weapons that you need. You need almost you need almost a star wide receiver and a star running back to push forward with something like this if you were expecting to win now. But you don't have that in this organization. They felt as though if they had Sam back there, he could compensate for a big-time wide receiver and a big-time running back, but, you don't have that. So he doesn't have really the guys around him to step his game up. In Sam Bradford's situation, he can step others' games up. But at this point, they need a guy that could really step up the game of everybody else on the team. And I don't think they have it with Wentz. Wentz is going to learn, and he's not going to be able to take everybody's game up like a Sam Bradford could.
Now, how do you think this move was received in the locker room? Because I heard Brett Selleck's comments, and I heard Jason Kelsey talk. So the veterans were saying the right things on camera. What do you think the mood was off camera or between text messages or to those veteran guys that, they're getting near the end of their career, and it's like, oh, man, rebuild?
Yeah, and that's exactly what you saw. They're like, oh, man, they're starting the kid. Yes, he's talented, but he's not ready to win right now. At least you have a guy that can go out there and win games for you. You don't have that right now with Carson. Carson has a lot of things that he has to, at least learn as he goes forward. It's a learning process for him. He didn't get, almost any reps the entire preseason. He said what you want to say. You can't look at the game, sit down and look at the game from the back and think that you're going to be good enough to play at this level. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't happen. If you're in a franchise and you think that he was going to be ready to play by the end of the season by sitting down watching Sam Bradford, you'd almost have to be crazy to think that was going to, really work and he was going to go in and play well. That's not going to happen. What you do is if you did have the opportunities, you see who he is as a player. You see what he can do in practice, his progression in practice. You help him out, during that time. But you cannot get a sense of how the game is played and how fast the game is sitting on the other sideline. It was totally different in Green Bay when you have, a future Hall of Famer and Brett Favre, and Rodgers sitting in the wings. He always had that talent. But, this is a totally different situation what you have up there in Green Bay.
Barrett Brooks is with us here. Don't forget, check him out tomorrow morning, 6 to 8, Breakfast on Broad on the Comcast Network and Comcast Sportsnet Philadelphia. Barrett, the trade, they offer you this deal. It's like you almost have to say yes. You get a first-round pick for a guy that's not really in your future plans. But in your mind, I know it sounds like are the expectations different, but it sounds like you think the Eagles may have been a playoff team if they just stuck with Bradford. So do you go for the playoffs or do you go for that first-round pick? Is this a no-brainer, or do you think they should say, you know what? We have a chance to make the playoffs this year. We got to see what we can do with Bradford, and then try to trade him at the end of the year if he had a good year.
Well, no, I'm going to say this. I've always been a Sam Bradford fan. Now I can't be, but I'm gonna say I was a Sam Bradford fan. But at this point, as we go forward, if you're thinking about this team really being a playoff team, it was closer with Sam Bradford as opposed to Wentz. It was definitely closer. Mm-hmm. You're a better team with Sam Bradford. At this point, right now, you're a better team.
So, are you in a situation where you went from a team that hoped it could have made the playoffs to turning into a team now that is playing to just evaluate, your younger players? It seems like everything has shifted big time.
Well, you can't say that they're close to being in the playoffs. He won't play that well. He wasn't ready to play when he did got the opportunity to go out there and play. So we have to start off by saying that he's definitely behind the curves. I think the Eagles at this point, understood that when they drafted him, that he's not ready to play. They're pushing forward with this because this is the most optimal way to get the kid ready at this point. He won't get any better sitting behind Chase Daniels and watching him play. He just won't get any better. The only way he can get better is to go out there, take his bumps and bruises, let the team and these young rookies learn around him as they press forward. And, that's what the franchise is saying. Nobody in this world would think that this trade would have ever happened. Nobody would have knew that Carson Wentz would be starting day one, and it's about to happen. This is something that, I couldn't foresee and nobody else could see. But the fact that, Howie Roseman would, go ahead and push forward with this trade is unbelievable to me, So I'm still in shock. I'm still in shock from the fact that they picked up Wentz in the second round, and then for Howie to turn around and do this, I'm really blown away now.
Do you think Doug Peterson was on board with this?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Now he's going to put his mark on his team. He can now mold this quarterback into the guy he wants him to be. Sam, I think he felt as though, all right, this is a good quarterback. He can help my franchise. He's going to give an opportunity to win. But it's not like he's going to get a pass, but he's going to get a little more of a leeway with Philadelphia fans as they progress forward with Carson. Carson's going to win a couple of games. He's going to lose a couple of games for him. But there will be a little bit of a pass that will be given to him in the aspect that, all right, you can't expect him to win right away. With Sam Bradford there, he would have been expected to win right away because that's the expectation they have with keeping Sam in the lineup.
Wow. All right.
On the roster.
Let's look at a couple other things. They make a trade today for Eric Rowe. He goes to New England. Josh Klein and a pick. You all right with giving up on Rowe already? I mean, could this guy just not play, or should they have tried to see if he could play safety? What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, that just wasn't their guy. Rowe was just not their guy. It's to the point that he didn't have what Coach Schwartz thought he should have as a corner in this system. He's a big corner. He's a physical corner when he wanted to be, and I think that this organization expected him. This new regime expected him to go out there and play a lot better than he did. He didn't. He only showed glimpses of it the last game of the year. The last game of the year when he had an opportunity to play for, you saw him on special teams. He was jamming guys, knocking them out of bounds, playing physical, but he didn't do that on a daily basis. And with sports, he doesn't play that. Either you play up to expectations or you're out of there. You're not going to play at all. And you saw people, like Mills, rise up the depth chart with, every day because he wasn't playing at that intensity every day.
How about Josh Klein, Barrett? You know anything about him? Because now we're hearing maybe this is just a piece to move, but then we've also heard that he could be depth on the line.
I don't know much about what Klein was doing. I mean, looking at it, I'd be lying if I said anything. Well, I don't know too much about that, but I mean, the fact that Rowe got traded, that's a big deal to me.
Yeah, and look, Klein. The interesting part about him is he did start in in New England, but it kind of fills a little bit of that void. They gave away Kelly, who was a guy who has played the last couple of years. Dennis Kelly has had to get on the field the last couple of years, so they get a guy who has some interior experience. Where Kelly was a tackle that they kind of made into a guard. So although they're trying to trade Klein, so it looks like they're trying to move him already. That he's in town. Yeah, reportedly that they're trying to move him. And then let's shift over to Lane Johnson. What's your take on that whole story? Because Mike Garafolo just confirming that Lane Johnson is expected to play on Saturday. Does that put the Eagles in a tough spot? I mean, I guess you got to play Johnson if he's on the roster, but it kind of puts him in an interesting spot, doesn't it?
No, it helps Carson Wentz right now. In the present right now is a little less of a worry. They're thinking about how you run the offense with Johnson in the lineup. You're going to get a little more stability in their play calling. Things will work out a lot better, for right now with helping Carson get acclimated into this NFL game. But it hurts you as a franchise later on because when they do hand down the suspension, he's going to have to go with Barbie. Even though Barbie did play well the preseason at right tackle, he didn't miss a beat. He went out there, played well, and I kind of knew he was simply because he played that, for the most part of his career. He was a tackle. He just recently moved into guard within the last 2 or 3 years, so I knew he would be all right. He's been all right as a stopgap type of guy, but that's 10 games. He's going to have to be a starter out there at right tackle. I think they dropped the ball in this whole process. I think Lane dropped the ball in this whole process of suspension and everything because he should have kept that to himself, I think. And, not saying it's being, selfish or anything, but it helped out, this process and lessening the worryation about what's going on with that process if he'd kept it to himself, even from the organization. That's why they tell the player in secrecy, hey, this is what's going on. You've been. You don't usually tell the organization before. I tell you, Hollis Thomas did the same thing. He got popped for a PED. He was suspended for 4 games, but he didn't let anybody know. So he ended up playing 12 games, before they even handed down the final sentence. You know, he did everything to try to fight it, and it took him 12 games throughout the entirety of his whole situation before they realized, you know, or before he was made to sit down for suspension. So he was into week 12 before he even did it. So he could have handled it a little better. The organization should have handled it a little better, as far as with the media and everything else, and, you know, went on with his career, you know, with this season, as opposed to telling him early.
Yeah, now this is where it gets interesting because, all right, so he's going to play the first game, then he gets suspended, let's say. He appeals. So maybe the appeals goes for a couple of weeks and he plays week 2, 3, 4, and then it's almost like, would you rather have him just not appeal, sit the 10 games out, and get him back for deeper in the season, or play him as much as you can early on in the season because your expectations are now changed?
No, just as long as he finishes the whole suspension this year as opposed to dragging out to next year, I would want them to go ahead and make sure that he gets suspended this year. And it goes to the entirety of the 10 games, as opposed to him playing 7 games and then turns around and then has to serve a suspension with you know, however many, you know, 1 or 2 more games into the next season. You know, I wanted to go into next year with the full capability of going and have him start all 16 games, as opposed to him, you know, having to sit down for 2 more games leading up into next year. The suspension process is a lengthy process, and they want to make sure they cross all their T's and dot all their I's when they go through all this stuff, the appeal process, you know, the B sample, all that stuff. So, you know, it's just a slow process, and the Eagles, you know, could possibly have him for maybe 4 more weeks.
Yeah.
Starting at right tackle, as opposed to him starting the year out and serving the 10-game suspension from the beginning.
Talking with Barrett Brooks here.
To see.
Yeah, no, I mean, you wonder what the heck is taking so long, seriously. I mean, this happened, 3-4 weeks ago that he got nailed in the B sample, and you're telling me it could be into the 4th week of the season before this gets resolved. It seems that this is just dragging on way too long.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, they are right now, they have their hands tied behind their back because you want to put the best lineup out there, but you also want the offense to get used to having what this lineup is going to be for 10 games without him being there. There's going to be a point where there's going to be 10 games where this team won't have Lane Johnson. So why not get it over with now? So I understand people thinking that, but, you know, I want him to play as long as the kid gets used to him being a right tackle and gets to learn the offense, you know, and it's not a big shock to him going in with Barbary going into the season.
So do you think there's the plus side, though, from what I'm hearing from you, Barrett, then Lane Johnson being there maybe keeps Carson Wentz more upright for a couple of weeks until you get to the bye, and then after that you switch into what you're going to be the rest of the way?
Yes, I think that'll be the most optimal position to put Wentz in, you know, as a starter, you know, game 1, at least through the first 3 games. You know, put Lane in there, make sure Lane, you know, gives them the opportunity to not get shell-shocked, you know, with these, you know, premier pass rushers coming off the edges, you know, on the right side. He'll give them a little more stability. It opens up their play calling a little bit when you have a guy that you don't have to worry about at the right tackle position, and both, you know, both ends of his offensive line will be intact. So, you know, your healthy Peters and a non-suspended, you know, Johnson gives you the best opportunity to win right now. Get his confidence up, have him in there, you know, learning, you know, trial by fire with a starter, a proven tackle, as opposed to going with somebody like Barbary, who has to go in there and he'll fight, he'll battle, but it won't be the same play selection. You can't throw those 7-step drops, you know, with the Barbary. You know, you have to temper it down a little bit, 5-step, 3-step drops. The game has to, you know, the ball has to come out a little bit faster with the Barbary as opposed to Lane Johnson. He will have the autonomy then to sit back, drop back, and read defenses a little better. Because like it or not, if Carson was a young quarterback, he's not going to read as fast as Sam Bradford. He's going to hold the ball a little longer than Sam Bradford, hence more likely to get sacked, you know, on a 7-step drop and a 5-step drop, as opposed to Sam Bradford, who processes things a lot faster than this rookie does. So it gives you a little more leeway to call what you want to call when you have a proven guy in there on the corner, keeping those good pass rushers off his back.
Barrett Brooks with us talking Eagles football, and I heard you say earlier, Barrett, that you felt like the Eagles had given up on Eric Rowe, and that's why they made that move. Why give up on a guy like Eric Rowe, and yet there's what do you think their take on Nelson Aguilar is? Because he continues to be an enigma.
Well, I mean, yeah, you would have to say Rowe didn't prove enough. Yeah, I guess he wasn't the type of guy that Schwartz likes. I mean, what's kind of crazy because Schwartz wants a physical corner that can go out there and press the receiver, throw the timing off, so those pass rushers can get up the field and cause a disruption up front. So you need a real aggressive corner to do that. I don't know if athletically he was good enough to handle, pressing the corner, getting off, and cover him for that amount of time. He just didn't fit what Schwartz wanted him to do. It was Chip Kelly's guy. He was always the bigger corner type of guy, big guy, beat up little guys, But I don't think that, this year they really not that they didn't give him the opportunity, but Rowe didn't play up to expectations that the defensive coordinator wanted out there on the field. If you look at guys that he has out there now, he has some pretty good athletes out there. Nolan Carroll. Nolan Carroll's a pretty good athlete. Ron Brooks is a pretty good athlete. So Leo Keller, he's also a physical guy that's a pretty good athlete. They may not be the stars and shutdown quarters that, most teams are looking for, but they are consistently aggressive, consistently quick, for the first, 10 yards than a lot of corners. So you take that and read it however you want it. That's just not what Eric Rowe is. Eric Rowe is a guy that's going to beat up on you for a little bit, and he just couldn't get off the ball and jam guys like these other guys can. You have to jam receivers, and you can't miss, and Rowe was missing a lot more than the guys they have there now.
All right, Barrett Brooks with us here. I looked at this Cleveland roster. They're pretty bad, but with the rookie quarterback, it really evens up the matchup a little bit more for this week, But if you're going to throw a rookie into his first game, I guess there's no better team to get it going against than a Cleveland team that's very young as well. They've got a lot of young players on that team.
Yeah, but the only thing is with that defense is Ray Horton. I played, under Ray Horton up in Pittsburgh. He understands how to run the zone blitz concepts, the 3-4, just about better than anybody in the league. He'll make those guys, vacate zones and bring blitzes that, Carson will never see in his life again. Mm-hmm. And, those are the type of, defensive coordinators that you have to worry about when you're playing a rookie quarterback. He's going to throw, everything, the kitchen sink, the tub, everything else at this young guy. And, see what he's got, see what he's made of. There are going to be guys that are wide open and free, and with the, the addition that Carson's not all the way healthy, he's going to have to get hit a little bit simply because the number counts will be so messed up on, on the way they send blitz. All the line can't pick up everybody, and tight ends and running backs can't pick up everybody. It's going to be a lot of sight adjustment. Can he get the ball out fast enough to beat these blitzes? There's going to be a lot thrown at him with this 3-4. It's totally different what he practiced against this entire preseason. He didn't get an opportunity to really play against a 3-4 team. So, Ray is going to dial up some blitzes he'll never see in his life again, and they understand that. They're going to, leave his zone free just to bring pressure off the edge, and how can he adjust to it? I'm ready to see what Carson does to adjust to the exotic blitzes that he'll get from Ray Horton and this Cleveland defense, who's been playing pretty good over the last year and a half.
It all goes down Sunday, 1 o'clock, right here on 97.3 ESPN. Barrett, tomorrow morning, Breakfast on Broad on the Comcast Network, 6 a.m., and we'll have Barrett's breakdown of the game on Monday here on The Bash. All right, pal, I'll talk to you.
Thanks, BB.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one, Pete.